Greetings, it's Tony from Old River Hardgoods again. Today we're going to take a brief look into the world of woodworking chisels, something of which I've got a lot of experience with. I've sold many thousands of them over the years. Wood chisels, carving tools, you name it. So sit back, enjoy, and I hope you learned something. Thanks. Okay, here we have an assortment of some of the more basic woodworking chisels. First, we're going to talk about handle styles. On the left, we have tang chisels, and on the right, we have socket chisels. Here we have a selection of tang chisels. Called that because the end of the blade is shaped in a point, or the tang, which gets fitted into a wooden handle. This part here is called the tang bolster. One of the more common makers you find is the W. Butcher of Sheffield, England. They were in business from the 1820s until the 1870s, and judging by the number of these that I find, it's safe to say that they were probably in just about every woodworking shop in the eastern part of the country prior to the Civil War. They were very major exporters. They not only made chisels, but they made files, saws, draw knives, adzes, you name it. Another popular maker, of course, is Buck Brothers. The original Buck Brothers were from England. They learned their trade over there in England, and they came over to this country where they produced both this style chisels and socket chisels as well. Okay, we have a selection of socket chisels. While a couple of the English makers back in the 19th century would put sockets on chisels, basically they're heavier framing chisels, this is pretty much of an American standard as far as chisels went. The upper one is the most basic, is a firmer chisel made by the PS&W, which later became Paxto. This one is a bevel-edged firmer chisel made by the T.H. Witherby Company. Now, I was the second guy out on the internet to start selling tools back in 1994. I was doing it part-time then. And when I finally started selling on eBay back in 2000, Witherby chisels were bringing crazy prices. I mean, this one's pretty rough. All these are in pretty rough shape because I just pull them out for show and tell here, but good Witherby chisels were bringing anywhere from $75 up to $125 a piece, depending on the size and condition. Those days, unfortunately, are long gone. This is a similar configuration called a bench chisel. This is a Stanley 750. This is one of the later ones without the model number on the socket, 1/4 inch. This one is called a sash paring chisel, 1/8 of an inch. Top is beveled. If it didn't have the beveled top, it'd be a sash mortising chisel. And this one is a true paring chisel. You can see the sides are relieved on it, completely all the way down. Now, originally, paring chisels were very thin, firmer chisels. They didn't have any beveling on them, and somewhere in this mess I have an example of one, but can't do the laying of the hands on it. This one is actually a Winchester, although the mark's pretty worn on it. Not sure who made them for Winchester. This one's also a little different in that, let's see if I can get it to stand up here. Well, I guess not. In that it's a flush paring chisel, because the socket, let me take the handle off, which was just there for show and tell. The handle is offset, which allows the blade to ride flat over the entire workspace. Of course, another style of chisel that's found a lot and very useful are gouges. The inside is rounded, which is an area called the sweep. Now, these are bench gouges. These came in either a regular sweep, which is what these are, a flat sweep, which is where the arc is a lot more shallower, or a deep sweep. Carving tool gouges have numerical sizes that run from a number 3 up to a number 11, 1 and 2 being chisels. Somebody rounded the tip of this guy for use with a lathe, which does happen a lot for them. Some gouges, like this one, have the bevel on the back. Some have them on the inside. A number of years back, I started collecting W. Butcher Edge tools, and while I've sold off most of that over the years, I decided to hang on to this set of gouges, because you just don't see these big ones around anymore. They need a little restoration work. Somebody, one of the flea market guys, sprayed this one with the shiny stuff. But one of these days I'll do a chisel restoration video. Another style of gouge that you see are the pattern makers crank neck gouges. The pair on the left are regular sweep. The one on the right is a flat sweep. These were made by the Buck Brothers Company. Occasionally you find an English one around, but most of them are Buck. And both of these have what's called a London pattern handle. These don't show up very often. They also made a paring chisel in this style, which is even harder to find and very collectible. Here we have a small assortment of carving tools. The upper one is a Dastra, made in Germany. It's a 1/32 of an inch gouge, also called a veining tool. The second one is a Henry Taylor bent spoon, 1/16 of an inch cut. That was from a selection of carving tools that I picked up over the summertime, but unfortunately they weren't stored very well, and as a result about half of them are pretty much basket cases. Next is a W. Butcher 3/16 of an inch carving chisel. And last is an S.J. Addis V-gouge. There are two lines of S.J. Addis. The first one was actually a family of makers who worked in London, and then the name was picked up by the Warden Paint Company of Sheffield, which is who produced this particular one. Here's a set of 7 chisels made by the E.A. Berg Company of Eskilstuna, Sweden. Eric Anton Berg first started selling woodworking tools in 1896, and the firm continued for a long time until it was eventually bought by Sandvik. They are considered to be some of the finest quality tools out there, and these had a few problems. A couple of backs have some light pitting and whatever, and one of them's missing the handle. But I don't get too many sets of chisels, just because of how and where I do most of my buying at. And a set like this is a real find. The only book that I know of that was ever published on chisel collecting was written by James Bassett, or Old Jim as he liked to be called. It was self-published back in 2009, called Chisels, Chisels, Chisels. I do have a copy here someplace, but my library shelf currently is a bit of a disaster zone, as is pretty much the rest of the shop. But I am planning a video on books at some point in time, so if it shows up by then, I'll include it in that one. Other resources for researching chisels there's some couple of great websites out there on the history of both Buck Brothers and T.H. Weatherby. All you have to do is Google Buck Brothers history or T.H. Weatherby chisel history, and they will take you to Brian Welch's websites, and it's a wealth of well-researched information. And that's all for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed my little presentation, as always. Please hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and I'll catch you the next time. Bye.